can't tell you what a sad experience it is to close a hospital, much less a base. Prior to appearing on that list, Griffiss was a very important base. It was, we thought, a very important role in the Northeast as well as in the entire Air Force, but it was not to be. And the impact on the local community was just devastating. They have recovered to a certain extent, but the vibrancy that was there when the base was active is no longer there and will never return. We did end up selling our home. We were extremely fortunate in that we did sell our house the day the moving van was there and loading. I was no more ready to show the house than I was ready to fly a kite that day. There was tape all over the floor. I hadn't cleaned behind where the furniture was, and the realtor came by and said, I have this woman that's interested in looking at your house. I said, well, it's not ready to be shown. And she said, well, you better show it. Don't miss this opportunity. Fortunately, we did not miss the opportunity. She bought the house right then and there. So we were very, very fortunate, although we did lose a huge amount of money. And the speaker in front of me, and I'm sorry I'm drawing a blank on your name, but I did have one experience at Griffiss. And we were always griping about the things we had to do. We had to go to Red Flag, which was going out sleeping in tents, taking communal showers, sleeping in co-ed tents, learning field care, carrying stretchers over, or carrying litters over an obstacle course, all that kind of stuff we loved to moan and groan about. And somebody decided that the nurses had to become proficient in the use of an M16. Well, never was I going to, I hadn't seen an M16, number one. I was never going to fire one, number two, and I had no idea I was going to get through this. So, but I went, showed up at the appointed time, the appointed place, followed all the instructions, and now I know where my shot went. They went on my neighbor's target. I couldn't figure out why they were not on my target. They went to my neighbor's target. Then after the firing was over with, we had to disassemble it, clean it, and put it back together. This was nothing like delivering babies. Fortunately, one of the faculty or instructors, I had just delivered his baby, and as being a midwife on any base, you learn very quickly to become very close to your active duty patients because they will take care of you later, especially if they worked at CBPO or if they worked in some other part of the base that you frequented. You got to know them because they would help you when you needed help when you were on their turf. So he came over to me and he said, you look like you're not having very much fun. And I said, well, trying to make a joke, I said, I haven't had so much fun since I worked 72 hours nonstop without going to the bathroom. He said, well, here, let me help you. So he said, this goes here, you put a little bit of this on that, it all slips back together, and I got it back together, went up front, passed, and left with my little card saying I was M16 proficient. Fortunately, I never saw an M16 again, and fortunately, I never had to fire one because it would have been way too easy for the enemy because I would have missed. Couldn't hit the broadside of the barn. In 1994, it came my turn to leave, and I didn't want to leave Griffiss. Although I had an assignment at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. My husband, who I neglected to say I met when I was in Andrews as an instructor, no, he was not in the military. He worked at Goddard and had nothing to do, never even heard of women in the military, but he signed on as military spouse/dependent, and followed me around for the rest of my career. So in 1994, we left for Colorado Springs. I was so happy about it that one day, or unhappy about leaving, one day a patient came in and she was saying, oh, she was sorry that I was leaving. And I said, well, I was looking forward to keeping the stiff upper lip. I was looking forward to going to Colorado, working in the academy, and blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to think of something to say. And I remember this patient particularly because her baby, prior to the baby that I had delivered, was stillborn. So this pregnancy that I took care of her through was especially difficult. And she went on to tell me how much I meant to her. So I just collapsed in her arms in tears. I can remember that to this day. That's something that you don't do. The nurse, the midwife provides the support for the patient, not the other way around. But in any event, I survived. We left in 1994, and I joined the 10th Medical Group at the Air Force Academy. I did not really have anything to do with the cadets. I knew that up on the hill was where they went to school, and we occasionally saw them on base, but I really didn't have that much to do with the academy cadets themselves. So I wasn't part of the sexual harassment controversy, although, any dummy would know that things were going on up there that shouldn't have been going on. But in any event, I wasn't part of any of that. Just for the record, I didn't have anything to do with that. When I went to the academy, by this time I was lieutenant colonel, and I had worked as a staff midwife my entire career. So I boldly went into the chief nurse and said that I would like to explore a supervisory component within maternal child health. And she politely wrote that down, and I knew, and she knew that there wouldn't be an opportunity to do that. But in the interim, the regulations changed. Prior to that time, only physicians could be commanders of hospitals, could hold any other position of a supervisor capacity other than the chief nurse. The chief nurse was the highest, traditionally the highest ranking nurse in the hospital and had the most supervisory administrative position, and she only took care of the nurses. Well, prior to that, it wasn't at all uncommon in some of the smaller hospitals for a newly minted resident captain obstetrician to be assigned to a base, didn't even know how to fill out a leave slip, and was in charge of an obstetrical department. Well, it didn't take much thought to figure out that that really was not fair to them, and it was not fair to the higher ranking officers who had lots more administrative experience, because we had to help them get their department going and telling them what to do. So they finally changed the rules, and nurses now could become flight commanders, and now there are some nurses who are even commanders of outpatient clinics. So we've come a long way in that respect. The physician who was the flight commander, which in a civilian hospital, to give you some comparison, is the same as the department chairman. Everything falls in the department chairman's lap. And in the military, that includes speeding tickets, shoplifting, sexual harassment, fights between obstetricians. Everything falls in your lap, in the flight commander's lap. So the physician who held that, who was working as or assigned as the commander, got orders shortly after I arrived, and I was appointed the maternal child flight commander, and I was the first nurse at the academy to hold that position. And I dearly loved it because it was something a little different from midwifery, although in fine print, even though you were the commander, you still did your full midwifery You had your full caseload, you took call and rotation with everyone else. So being a commander really was an additional duty. But I loved that part of it. I got to know and appreciate NCOs. The NCOs in the Air Force have amazing leadership skills. They have amazing leadership qualities because that is part of their upbringing as they come through the ranks. And I will tell you that the flight senior NCO, who is my right-hand man, made me look good, told me what to do, and thanks to him, we did do well, our flight did well, and in fact we had a very big inspection while he and I were at the helm, and we got special recognition for our leadership, which I was very proud, and I was just as proud of the airmen, the technicians, the nurses, and the physicians who worked for me. So in 1996, I had to make a decision. I was offered a job as a midwife here in Saratoga. A job opened up that I learned of through an Air Force friend. So I decided that 20 years was enough, even though I hated to give up my administrative position. I decided that it was time to do something different, so I was going to be a civilian midwife, hoping that babies in the civilian world will be delivered the same as babies in the military, and in fact they are, and so that was not a major concern. So I retired in March of 1996, and we moved to Saratoga Springs. So in my career, I delivered 1,594 beautiful babies and assisted at 267 C-sections. And to prove that all the babies I delivered were beautiful, I brought some of the pictures of the babies that I delivered at the Academy. They truly are beautiful. And just to show you how, well, I'm not sure whether this shows you how small the Air Force is or how many babies I delivered, but I received a Christmas card from a technician that I worked with at Griffiths, who she and her husband were both medical technicians, and I delivered her first baby. And she got out, and they were stationed in Vandenberg. And he remained, and she got out. So I got a Christmas card from her one year, and she said, I have to tell you this, you won't believe this. I joined a play group here at Vandenberg, and there are 6 mothers and toddlers in our group. And we got to sitting around one day as the children were playing, and we got to discussing our birth stories. And it turned out that I delivered all 6 babies in this play group. So I'm not sure what that means, but it was really, it was very interesting to me that my babies were scattered all over the world. Sometimes it was sad. They were not all happy times. Both of you are standing up, so I guess my time. I'll be quick. Some of them were not born healthy. Some of them were born still, and some died at the hands of the parents. I lost one baby at Langley that, because of incessant crying, the father, who was the active duty person, took a hammer to the baby's head. He's still alone. We're crying, I hope, for the life that he took. But I do need to tell you that the squadrons were very, very supportive. The Air Force, and I suspect all the services really do take care of their own when bad things happen. When I entered the Air Force, I didn't know what to expect, but what I got was education, the best friends in the world, and I got life experiences that I would never have gotten, and I got a chance to travel. I did a lot of griping but everything the Air Force asked me to do, I did. And I did not have to go to flight school, which was the one thing I did not want to do. I joined the Air Force, but I didn't like to fly. I just wanted to look babies, which I did. There's one other thing that I quickly want to say. It has nothing to do with New York, but it has something to do with the Air Force and with women in the military, and this is hot off the press. I hope, or I think probably all of you are familiar with the Thunderbirds, the Air Force aerial demonstration team. This year, coming up, the 2006 season, the pilots have just been selected for that, for 2006 show season. And the first female demonstration pilot in 52-year history of the Thunderbirds has been selected. She is Captain Nicole Makalowski from the 494th Fighter Squadron at Royal Air Force Lakeview. And she will be the first female pilot on any of the demonstration teams. So we have indeed come a long way. Thank you.
And I'm glad you mentioned the young pilots. I met our next speaker last year. I'm surprised that I hadn't heard about her before. She grew up in Clifton Park and was a star basketball player for Shenandoah High School. She went to the United States Military Academy as part of the first class of women at West Point. She joined the Army immediately thereafter. Her military career began in 1980 and progressed as she took part in Operation Desert Storm and Gulf War. She's held some interesting positions during her 22 years of service. She wrote a book, which I enjoyed reading, and I'm very proud to introduce retired Lieutenant Colonel Carol Hartman. Thank you, Nuni, for that introduction. And I'd like to thank you and Marie and the New York State Military Heritage Institute and others who've taken the time and effort to make this day a reality. We should celebrate women's achievements any chance we get. I know it's been a long afternoon already, and we've heard some great stories, so if you could bear with me, again, I know I had to go, so if you've got to go, I understand. But today I'd like to share with you some of my experiences as a member of the first class of women to graduate from West Point, and some of my experiences along the way during my 22 plus years of service. I'd also like to talk a little bit about women in combat. For me, it started just down the road in Clifton Park, and I believe that timing is everything. I knew at 16 I wanted to be an officer in the Army. I had applied to numerous colleges, hoping to get an ROTC scholarship. In October of 1975, President Ford signed Public Law 94-106, admitting women into the nation's service academies. I didn't know anything about it until my guidance counselor, knowing I was interested in ROTC, told me about the academies opening up to women. I didn't even know where West Point was. I knew that Army played Navy and football every year, but that was about it. I decided to apply. I feel very fortunate that I received an appointment to West Point the first year that women were admitted. However, I have to admit that at 17, I was truly unaware of what was ahead. Growing up with 3 older brothers, I figured I'd have an edge. I had already survived 17 years of their tortures. I entered the academy with one thought in mind, to fulfill my dream of serving my country by becoming an officer. 118 other women entered that first day, 7 July 1976. The whole Corps cadets totaled over 4,400. I believed that I would be accepted for who I was, based on the fact that I was serious about becoming the best officer that I could. And for me, West Point's rigid discipline and training would be the answer. Well, there were others who had a different idea. Although it wasn't a majority that didn't want women at the academy, there was a very vocal minority that that sometimes made life hell. So many of the cadets and male instructors had never had the opportunity to work with women as a peer, especially in a military environment. That first year, I was ready to quit what seemed hundreds of times. Nothing would go right, then everything would go right. I would get hazed by upperclassmen over and over again, never knowing when the next time would be. That first year, our plebe year, the women were divided up and were assigned to only 12 of the 36 companies. The administration did recognize that we needed some camaraderie that first year, and putting us in all 36 companies would mean that there would be just about 3 women to a company. Each company was about 120 strong. So we were lucky. There were about 6 to 8 of us in each company. What we wanted was to fit in, not to be looked at as female cadets, but as just cadets. And as you can imagine, we really stuck out that first year. And unfortunately, there are a number of examples that I could draw on to highlight that the administration, thinking that they had our best interests at heart, made some poor decisions. One of those decisions was to change the full dress gray uniform for women. The full dress gray uniform is what we wear during parades, the high collar, a lot of buttons, and the tails in the back. Well, the administration decided that they should cut off the tails of the full dress gray for women because they were afraid they wouldn't sit flat. You know, our butts would make them stick out, thereby calling attention to all the women in ranks. Well, all it did was call attention to the women in the ranks. We went for a whole year like that, and finally, in our yearly year, they gave us our tails back. I think the most important time for women at the Academy was during our second summer, which was spent at Camp Buckner with our classmates. The experience at Camp Buckner centered on building confidence within a unit through teamwork. The barracks arrangement at Camp Buckner dictated that the women shared 2 open bay buildings, each housing about 45 of us. We began to bond with one another, to share stories and gain strength from each other. It was also a time to work side by side with our male classmates, giving them an opportunity to judge us on our merits. The bonds we made with each other that summer are still strong today. Each year got progressively better because of close to graduation. We also continued to bond with our male classmates, and that was truly important. Upon my graduation from the Academy, I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the Air Defense Artillery. My first assignment was in Germany on an isolated Nike Hercules missile site. I was the first female officer to be assigned to the site. Over 95% of my soldiers were men, and for most of them, it was the first time they had a female platoon leader. I'm happy to report that my soldiers and I got along well. It was different for them, and I think coming from West Point, the West Point environment, truly helped me prepare for that. It would be their adjustment to me, and I had to understand them. During my 3 years in Germany, I realized that my career progression in the Air Defense Artillery would be limited because by Army policy, I was prohibited from serving with 2 weapon systems used closer to the front in combat. As a career officer, this would translate into fewer opportunities to command a battalion-sized unit. So in May of 1983, I changed my branch to the transportation corps, the branch that did not limit my opportunities because I happened to be a woman. In 1985, as a result of a New York Times Magazine article on women military academy graduates that included an account of my experiences, I was approached by a literary agent to write a book about these experiences as a member of the first poet class at West Point. I accepted this challenge for 3 key reasons. First, I felt that the American public didn't really know what women do in today's military, and this would provide an opportunity to look inside. Another reason I wrote in the Men's House was to pay tribute to those military women who have come before me. It was because of their dedication and commitment to service that West Point and the other academies opened their doors to women. Women of my generation are forever indebted to these pioneers. Their blood, sweat, and tears have paid big dividends for all of us. Finally, I hope my book will send a message to young women who choose to pursue a non-traditional career field. We, as women, center of Los Miami. In fact, one of the most lasting impacts that West Point has had on me is the fact that each and every day I was taken to my limit, emotionally, mentally, physically, towards what I thought was my limit, and then taken beyond. So early on, I learned I didn't know my own potential, and that experience has had a lasting effect on how I live my life today. In August of 1986, I took command of a light medium truck company. Again, as in Germany, most of my 140 soldiers were men. I knew that I would have to show them I had the right stuff. As a commander, I was concerned about two things: accomplishing my mission and taking care of my soldiers. When my soldiers witnessed that, it didn't take any time for them to accept me as their commander, in spite of the fact that I was a woman. After giving up command, I was assigned to the Pentagon, first working on the Joint Staff for 18 months, and then on the Army Staff for 14 months. I have been afforded the opportunity to observe military policy at the highest level. I was able to experience at the operational planning level two military conflicts, Operation Just Cause and the Persian Gulf War. Over 40,000 women served in the Kuwaiti Theater of Operations during Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I consider myself lucky to have been part of the operation, deploying to Saudi Arabia just after the air war started. I was responsible for coordinating the external transportation requirements of the 24th Infantry Division. The 24th Infantry Division had been in the desert longer than any other unit. Men and women, officers and enlisted worked together daily to accomplish the mission. The 24th ID was the spearhead of the end-around attack into Iraq to call off the Iraqi retreat to Baghdad. I spent 5 days in Iraq. The official war had ended, but in some areas around Basra, fighting was still going on. 13 women lost their lives in the desert, 5 of those during the war. While I was in the desert, I witnessed the same types of relationships forming between men and women as has been traditionally described as occurring among men. Mutual respect and caring, born out of enduring the same dangers and the same hardships. And because of our shared experiences, women were accepted by fellow male soldiers as an integral part of Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm. In 1994, I served as second in command of the 6th Transportation Battalion at Fort Eustis, Virginia, a battalion of almost 1,000 soldiers. In the fall of '94, I got to go back to Saudi Arabia when we thought Saddam was going south again. We spent just 2 months there. This time conditions were a lot better, too. Our battalion offloaded equipment to be sent to a location in Iraq, near Kuwait. Now, of course, equipment is currently stored there, and so are our soldiers. In 1996, I returned to Europe as the operations officer of the 1st Theater Movement Control Agency. I spent a lot of time in Bosnia, assisting our efforts there. Our job was to coordinate the movement of supplies and equipment into and out of the theater of operations, along with the rest of the European theater. In 1998, I fulfilled another dream when I was chosen to command a battalion. I commanded the 25th Movement Control Battalion, based out of Seoul, South Korea. It was the first time a female had commanded that battalion. I had never been to Southeast Asia, and from what I had heard, I was likely going to run into Korean men who didn't think I belonged there. I'm happy to report that the 2 years I spent there, I had only a few casualties in the Korean military who had an issue with me. And after a while, I was able to win them over. They even asked me to play golf with them. You know you're in when they ask you to play golf. I had Korean civilian men and women working for me as well as Korean soldiers detailed to our unit. When they saw I was serious about doing a good job and taking care of them, I had no problems. In terms of opportunities for women, the military has come a long way since I was a cadet. And during each of my assignments, I've noticed an increase in the number of women deployed to support combat missions. Currently, women comprise about 18% of the total force. I think that there are a number of myths about war and about women in war and combat that should be dismissed. First of all, those who wear the uniform are the last ones who want to go to war. If you hear someone in the military bragging about wanting to go to war, you can bet that they've never been there. But when we are called to serve, there can be no question. We've all taken an oath, both men and women, to support and defend the Constitution. And I can tell you as an officer and a commander, I feel a greater sense of commitment, not only to this country and our Constitution, but to the soldiers that I serve. There aren't really a lot of differences between men and women in a combat situation. Everyone gets scared. What's truly important is how well we've been trained. The night I arrived in Saudi Arabia during Nippon Storm, we had a Scud attack. I had to put my chemical protective gear on for the first time for real. Every other time had been for training. And as scared as I was that night, my instincts took over and my training kicked in. I knew I could survive because I had been trained so well. Another untruth is that women miss their families more than men do. Simply not true. Women may sometimes display those emotions of missing their families differently, but don't ever think that men don't cry or feel the same way women do. I can assure you they miss their loved ones just as much. In fact, I had some guys tell me that they were glad there were females around because they felt better if they could talk about the feelings. And women were much easier to talk with. If you talk to a male war veteran, he will tell you that while he was there in the conflict, he fought not only for his buddy, for his country, and more so for his buddy. That was usually the first thing, his buddy. I found this to be true during Desert Storm. And if there is anything positive about war, it's the sense of family, which truly fosters human cohesion. Another myth is that some people think the military can just deploy and fight and kill the enemy. The real enemy is usually the foreign government. And it's not the men and women in uniform on either side who decide to go to war. It's those who live in harm. I have seen devastation in war-torn countries, such as Bosnia, Kuwait, and Iraq. And I truly realize how lucky I am to be an American. I feel anyone who witnesses firsthand the effects of war will feel the same way. Military men and women don't get to choose which conflicts they will or will not deploy to. And it doesn't matter if the attack is on U.S. soil or the soil of our allies. Theirs is the mission of answering the call. And I believe that mission is clear. I believe all of us as U.S. citizens of this country have a mission as well. Whether or not we believe in a particular conflict or war, we have a responsibility to support those servicemen and women who are willing to give their lives for all of us. People always ask me if women should be in combat. Simply put, women are and have been in combat. The lethality of modern weaponry has wiped away the lines between combat areas and non-combat areas on the battlefield. The women who have been deployed to hostile areas in the world understand the dangers they face. The key is to ensure that we continue to have the best trained military in the world. Freedom has always been paid for in blood. And it's time for everyone in this nation to understand that our young women of today, like their mothers and their mothers' mothers, stand ready to pay for our dear, precious freedom without hesitation or reservation. Thanks again for allowing me to share some of my story, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
Well, she speaks as well as she writes. Thanks, Carol. Well, I haven't seen our next speaker in many years. I first met her on a bus trip to Washington, D.C. in 1993. She probably doesn't even remember. She joined my veterans group as we went down there for the dedication of the Vietnam Women's Memorial. And if I have the one woman, I'm really going to feel bad about it. But I'm sure it's her. During the ride down, she talked to Terry Waterston, her daughter Pam, and I about her experiences while she was stationed in Saudi Arabia during Operation Desert Storm. I'm glad our paths have crossed once again. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to retired Lieutenant Colonel Pat Huggins, who served in the Air Force Reserve as a flight nurse from 1978 to 2002. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'll try that. Thank you, Mindy, and thank you for inviting me to come here today. I have a tendency to like to put things off, so sometimes getting ready for today, I kept thinking, oh, it'll be farther down the line, and then Billy calls up and says, it's coming. So when I was growing up in Carthage, New York, by Watertown and Fort Drum, around the Army, I can always remember sitting around the dinner table, my father would say, oh, that. Stay away from the Army. Don't join the Army. Don't go to Fort Drum. They're just there 2 weekers to party. They're in the Guard and the Reserve. You go in the Navy. And I always said I wanted to be a nurse from age 8 and 9. He said, get your nursing and then go in the Navy. Go in the Navy. Obviously, he had that. I'm one of those sweet babies. So I got my RN, but after that I didn't want to listen to what Dad had said. So I took many years, and then I came home and said, Dad, I think I'm going to join the Air Force. The Navy and the Army wouldn't take me anyway, because at that time I didn't have a BSN. So I had got my RN out in Honor, New York, and in 1976 I moved to Saratoga, and I was going to stay 1 year. Well, a couple years later, I'm getting bored, and that's when over a cup of coffee, a nurse said, well, why don't you be a flight nurse? Flight nurse, Air Force. Well, that's not Army, that's not Navy. So I ended up joining up, and in 1978, in October, I was commissioned first lieutenant, because I'd already been working for a while. I got constructive credit, which they used to give the military people, or medical military. I went off to flight school, and being a northern girl, I had a little hard time in San Antonio with all that heat in May and June. And we'd be sitting in an auditorium, and officers' orientation there, Wichita Falls came first. The sweat would be pouring down, and Southern Belles, they used to call me, have wearing their little sweaters. I had a real hard time with the heat, but I was starting to get used to things. And right off the bat, what I liked best with the Air Force was that we were all training together. The Guard, the Reserve, and the active duty. We all wore the same uniform. We all had to salute the same way. Although I did learn to salute at 10 o'clock at night in the officers' bar. I was late getting to the orientation program thanks to the snow in Albany. But, and I got to finally meet people from a lot farther away than little old Carthage, New York. And I found that so interesting. I liked the camaraderie and the teamwork that I had while I was stationed my entire 22 years, 24 years to be exact, down at Stratton National Guard Base in Scotia. And while I was there, I went from being a flight nurse instructor. A few years later, I was an examiner. And along the line, I met my future husband and continued to have a field exercise while I was pregnant. Those fatigues certainly do stretch when you run as far as you can. Then stopped flying for a period of time. And when she was around 4 or 5 weeks old, I went back through the altitude chamber, got my qualifications back to fly, and once again being an evaluator. And I think I was changing her diaper when I got the phone call that Just Cause had just started in Panama and Noriega's shenanigans, and was I willing to deploy? And there's something about having a baby and the diaper changing and that mother hat that you have to take off and the military hat back on, and I said, absolutely, when? So I did go over. It was only for a couple weeks. Things wrapped up very quickly, as you may or may not remember. But it was the first time in my life that I actually had to remember what I'd been taught. To this day, if I see a suitcase or a bag or something unattended, I kind of watch it back off. And those were the things that we were taught. Being alert, being aware, know what's going on around you. And of course, seeing the bullet-riddled buildings over there. Once again, I sweated my tour there and went back home. And we had just had a great big exercise in North Carolina, and in the summer, of course. And shortly after that was August of 1990, and the first deployment from my guard unit went to Riyadh. And from what I understand, we were actually on the ground before the 82nd Airborne unit, within days. But we were there first thing, set up facilities, hospitals, and staging facilities that we in the Air Force call MASF. MASF stands for Mobile Aeromedical Staging Facility. Not to be confused with a MASH, because a MASF only prepares the wounded to be taken by plane further away from the battlefield or to better facilities where they can be taken care of longer term. So, after the first deployment left, I got thinking, and I knew what the inevitable was. And of course, we were volunteers at that time. So I stepped forward and I said, I'm ready to go in the next deployment, which was September 27th. I hope you remember these dates. And I went to Dhahran, where I helped to set up Bedrock City, and met Bernie Tatral. Some of you may remember he used to be on the local TV station, and he was over there looking for local people to interview. And I was on the news every day. I guess they would show a little clip. It was like this, if you remember. I was drinking water from the canteen. That's what they used to like to show. And I also prepared planes and helped with patients and helped set up things for scud alerts. And when we had a day off, we were able to take the bus around the base, and there was a swimming pool that had been dug out of the sand, and have some off time. We were also co-located with Army troops, so that we got to compare notes. And I guess that was when we first started talking about the purple suit, because if you mix the Navy blue and the Navy blue Air Force and the Navy blue Navy, and black and green from the Army, you basically have a Navy Air purple suit. And this is where the interaction between the services was coming in. And the purple suit just means we're all working together for the same thing. We all just have a little different jobs. And then the deployments were supposed to be 30 days. So in 5 weeks, I sent back home, and only to wash my clothes, repack my duffel bag, and be ready for when we were activated with the presidential call-up, which came after Christmas. So in January, I spent my 39th birthday sandbagging in Riyadh, and as it's been brought out, the commander needs to take care of their people. So what happens at the end of every January? We have a Super Bowl, right? Well, they wanted to watch the Super Bowl. So it was 2 a.m. in Riyadh. I gave them the day off. Let them stay up and watch the Super Bowl. Well, you got to reward them for a good job. We had a lot of sandbagging done and a lot of palletizing and equipment. And so from Riyadh, I was deployed over to Jubail, which was where the water purification is for all of Saudi Arabia. And at that location, we were with the active duty medical people from Scott Air Force Base and Washington State and Fort Lewis. And I remember waking up one morning, and it was probably already about 80 or 90, and seeing two nurses on the cot. And we were in temper tents, which held 18, I believe it was 18 cots. Anything over 6, it's the same. And she had a yardstick on the gal's leg, and I said, what are you doing? And she said, well, I don't have any control over anything in the Army except the growth of the hair on my legs. So every week we measure it, and it's getting there. It's a half an inch long right now. And I thought, yeah, this is going to be okay. We're going to have some laughs. And we did. While I was in that location, we continued to set up to prepare, because at this point it was only February, and the actual ground war hadn't started yet. So we were trying to get organized and play the what-ifs games and so on, and where to put bodies, and in fact, they came as they were afraid, and of course those things didn't happen, thank God. But the training continued, and the interaction
action, which was so important. And after I'd been in jail for about 3 weeks, I was then sent forward to a place called Ras Al Rashab, which is only on some of the few maps I have in the back. I brought a lot of my mementos in. When they told me the tents were underground, I had been a camper as a kid, and I was like, I'm not sure how you pitch a tent underground, but something new that I've never done. So what it meant is the backhoes had been in, they had dug up the berming, the tents, GP large and GP medium, were pitched, and the berming was all the way around them to protect against blast. And so that was a pretty neat place to be. We had 2 showers with a 55-gallon drum on top, and every now and then they would get the water heated up, so you could sometimes get a shower. But the people, as we noticed, the worse our locations had been, the better the morale got. And in that place, you brush the flies off so you could eat your food. It was really pretty bad. And we laughed, and we talked, and we had great times. And that was when the rains came. And one day I got up, and it was pouring rain, and all the baby fine sand had turned muck and mud. And they came to my tent and said, Major Huggins, we have a plane going to Bahrain, and we need to get a crew together. And I said, this is out of here. I can send 5 people out of here for a day. So I went around and asked everybody, crew-wise, do you want a trip? Do you want a training flight over to Bahrain? You might get some real food. No, I got some, but then there was still one more person needed, so I had to step forward. And we got Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was like the greatest steak I could have imagined or something. And it was a real turnaround trip, but we won a Marine plane and did our duty that day and came back. It's exciting. When I came home, though, I will never forget that my family was so supportive, and I had left Saratoga Hospital. And I still, to this day, in my boxes at home, I have every single card that was written to me, every letter, the brownies, the Girl Scouts that wrote to me. I have my yellow ribbon that Saratoga tied on all the trees up and down Broadway. Mine's down across from the Y on Broadway where it used to be Waltersville National Bank. When I got home, I cut that ribbon down and I have it in my box. And in here, just under the ribbons, yeah, there are memories, one of which is a expert marksmanship. I loved firing it. They first gave us the 38s, which we took all over the Gulf, and wore those in our harnesses, and they came back, and the next time got our 45s. But that M16, well, I love that little baby, but officers weren't going to carry those, so we didn't have to qualify on that. Everything that I came home with was the memory of people supporting me. And that's why when I see the bumper stickers and I see the yellow ribbons, it reminds me that every day I went through, whatever I had to do, whether it was sandbagging or taking care of a patient, of which I didn't have a lot of severe casualties, but knowing that I was cared for. And I also believe that there's no other time than in the military that you have to believe the supreme being. I don't care if you call it Allah or God or what, but you know you're looked out for, and it's part of it. There were times when situations were that I don't have a clue how to answer this situation, and something would just click and it would work out. After I came back, we all started changing the way we trained. We learned, we continued to do more training exercises. We brought back the element of, but it's not going to be this way. It's going to be reality. So we tried to bring the more realism into our training. On April 1st, 1999, it was a Fool's Day, I assumed commander of the Aerovac Squadron down in Stratton. and didn't know that September 11th would be coming so soon. And I had left the hospital very briefly to teach, and at that time I was going back to the hospital, and I was in my second orientation class, 20 years to the day, when I heard about 9/11 and the terrorism attack. So I looked at one of the nurses that was in charge, and I said, I can't get through to the squadron, but you know, I have to leave. And she said, give me your timesheet, goodbye. And I left. And I ran from the hospital parking lot home on the east side of town, packed a bag, threw all my flight gear into the trunk, made a phone call to my neighbor, pick up my daughter after sports, I forget now, field hockey, I think. I don't know when I'll be back. Called my sister and said, I'm gone from base. I'm not sure when I'll be home. Take care of things, please. And I made it to Schenectady in 45 minutes. From the parking lot home back. Only time I wish there was a cop around going down the Northway. As I walked in the building, still trained to tie my boots and zip up my flight suit and everything. And the people were already there, and I said, come to my office, we need to talk. Tell me what's going on. And so, boom, 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 I got reports. I had one group of folks go out to our garage and start loading up a truck with all the medical supplies, keeping an inventory. We didn't have any requests for it yet, but I mean, under the circumstances, I figured it was expected. And after things were kind of going along, I picked up the phone and I called my friends at the Air Guard unit in Oklahoma City. And I forget now the name. I said, hi, it's Pat. I need to know what you did the day after your bombing or the day of the bombing. He said, stay low and keep your people busy. So that's exactly what I did. Nobody sat. They all kept busy. We all kept busy. And with time, as the days went on, I had to sit down and decide who were the people that were going to deploy to New York, who were the people that eventually were going to deploy away. And I began to think these silver pizzas were making my shoulders really heavy. And I would have given up one day of my career, which 24 were spent in the Air Guard, till the day I finally said, I think I'm getting too old for this, and I think it's time to move on and let some other new blood and ideas come in. So I transferred into the Air Force IMA, the individual augmentee, and was supposed to be in Hanscom Air Force Base out by Boston. So I was really excited. Here I was going to be able to devote more time to my only daughter and work. And I made a couple trips out to Hanscom, and lo and behold, I got a phone call again in the month of April. And it was a colonel, the chief nurse, and she said, I have to tell you you're unattached. And I said, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, our clinic is downsized. We're going to let 2 doctors and 4 nurses go. Okay. So then I sat down, had another little talk with the Supreme up there, and said, are you trying to tell me something? And I decided after a little while to put in my retirement payments. So that takes 6 months. And on Christmas Eve, a year ago, I was officially retired from the Air National Guard and the Reserve. And the phone rang, and it was somebody saying, we need you back, and we gone. But anyway, I'm really happy to be retired, but I wouldn't have missed anything. You'll see on the back table, we got to go down to South America, to Bolivia once, to Argentina once, to do an Air Force to Air Force exchange on medical treatment of casualties, because they don't do it the way we do, and we're able to help them out. I was able to go twice to Reforger in Germany. I just was able to do a lot of training that I learned about ordinarily. Thank you again for having me here today. If there's any questions.
Now you can tell me, was it you that was on the bus?
I was on the bus.
When I started to arrange this program for today, I had a couple of people in mind that I wanted to be here. I wanted to make sure that I covered each of the wars. I wanted especially to make sure that I covered Iraq. So many people I know have been over there and are still over there. I couldn't find any women who went. And actually, I'm not always in the Albany area, so it's kind of hard for me to locate folks. But I couldn't find women. And I happened to be home in February, and I happened to catch the news, and I saw that there was a guard unit just coming home. So I was happy enough to get to meet my next speaker. She had just spent 14 months in Iraq in the New York Army National Guard. Her career began as an enlisted woman in 1982, go enlisted, and she was commissioned in 1988. I'd like you to welcome our newest and bravest veteran, Major Kelly Ford.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it's an honor to be on this board here, always wonderful women and all of their experiences. I feel honored, especially coming from where I came from. I never thought I'd be here. As you see, I have my two beautiful boys with me. They're twins, Michael and Kyle. And I call myself a wounded veteran. And the reason why I call myself a wounded veteran is because of my boys. Leaving them was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. And my wounds are still fresh. I only been back from Iraq since February. So I'm still emotional. I served my country when they called, I was there. But it was still hard because leaving my boys was the hardest thing I ever had to do. So I'm still a little emotional, so I get a little sentimental or teary-eyed because my wounds are still fresh. And I wrote some stuff down, but I said I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but you guys heard all about the military, all these beautiful women and all their stories. So I'm just going to kind of try to just talk about myself a little bit. At 17, most of the women were deciding what they were